Recording. All right, everybody. Pat Hager here, head cross country track and field coach at Houghton College. And I'm here with a very good friend of mine. Known him for about 15 years now, I guess. Eric Bofinger, 2007 graduate from Messiah College. We ran together there and have been friends ever since. I think the cool thing is we stay connected just about every day. Via text threads, sometimes several text threads. And just going to connect with him a little bit. He's got a unique story as well. He kind of got me into running, really. I joined the team, and Eric kind of had this unique culture to him that I really liked, sort of the short split shorts and the shaved legs and stuff that kind of goes along with honestly, the things that kind of made my experience at Messiah pretty cool. It wasn't just running. There was a lot that went with it. And so Eric has run for a long time, longer than me. And so I thought that was kind of cool. So we sort of, ever since college, we've kind of been, honestly, two of the guys at the forefront of just continuing to train and race and have fun with it. And Eric's a fitness guy. He currently works at Bucks Fit, which is a physical therapy clinic, and he runs the fitness wellness side of that clinic near Philadelphia. Well, he lives in Jersey. He's on the outskirts of Philadelphia for work. And so, so we kind of have some similar paths with that type of stuff. But without further ado, I've got a few questions for Eric.
Okay.
I think the first one was just kind of, I don't know, he's a pretty good storyteller. We're going to try and condense some of it, but tell the audience here a little bit about your college experience with the team, Messiah, running. I mean, just some things you want to share about that.
Yeah. So I guess to make a long story short, so I went to Messiah, and I actually didn't look at any other colleges. I had a friend of mine who was a high school friend, Larry Hannon, and he went to Messiah. He was a year ahead of me, and kind of told me a lot of good things about the school. I went to visit the fall of my senior year of high school, and I really liked the team. I wasn't really good with kind of planning out my future, so I went there. I liked it, and so that's what I wanted to do. And so I only applied to Messiah, and I thought it was pretty cool too, because as a high school runner, I was mainly an 800 runner, and I guess my time seemed to be pretty competitive with some of the top guys. I was like a 202 guy in high school, and they're like, yeah, come here, you'll do great, kind of in the mix of things. And that proved to be true. So it was pretty awesome, just getting in there and running my first year cross country. I was on actually a really good team my freshman year. We had a lot of older guys that really did some damage in the Mid-East Conference. And I think my first year we were like fifth in that region.
Fifth in the region, yeah.
Yeah, we were really, really, really close to making nationals. And for me, as like a freshman, I was like usually our 6'7" guy. I had no idea. It was kind of a funny thing. I didn't really know how good we were. And in retrospect, you look back on some of those teams and some of the past experience, oh my gosh, we were really good.
Let me interrupt you real quick, because there's a story. I mean, I wasn't there at this time. Eric's freshman year, obviously, he's a year older than me, but there's a story about that regional meet where they were fifth and they were gunning for nationals. And Brandon Newbold, who we all know as sort of this crazy runner from the time. Tell us the story about him after regionals. Short and
So actually the story goes back to maybe the day or 2 days. I think it was the day before regionals. We kind of had this tradition where we played wall ball in the shower. Kind of interesting, but I'm sure all the cross country guys can relate to this. And he was going up, to tag the wall, and he slipped, and he grabbed the soap dish, which was a metal soap dish, and sliced his hand. So his hand was all bloody and everything. This was the day before regionals, and so he had it all bandaged up and wrapped up. But anyway, his goal going into the season, or actually they made it a team goal with his class and maybe some of the younger guys years before, that they were going to make nationals that year. And so when they didn't, he and a bunch of his teammates and everybody, we were all really upset. And he ran home from Carlisle to Mechanicsburg and Grantham. And I don't know how far that is, but
20 miles. I mean,
Right.
18, 20 miles maybe.
Yeah, and so I guess now, like, looking at it, like, Newbold's still, he's probably, he might almost be 40. Like, he's probably like 38 or 39 years old, and he's still running a 100-mile week. So I guess in
Yeah.
retrospect, that was like no mileage for him, but like for a college runner, having to go through all that, and he asked the coach, he's like, "Coach, I need to run home," kind of just to get his headspace cleared out, and that's what he did. He ran home.
Yeah. Yeah, I joke with my guys a lot about our experiences at Messiah. One of the funny things that we talk about, it's not really funny, it's just kind of like a good memory of like long run days where like, everything was posted on that sort of microcycle on the board, with the Monday, Tuesday. And then like everything was ranges. There was no, like, coach was never like, this is your mileage. It was just like, here's a range. And so I always tell them that, like, on long runs, we go in vans and the range was like 7 to 14 miles. And it was like, you just chose, and he would just stop at different places and be like, all right, 7-mile group, get out, And so, like, that's kind of a fun memory. I just remember Peter Schenk always choosing the short run there, and eventually us making him go longer. But so what else? I mean, so you kind of had like that year, and then the next year when I came in, like, we kind of had a down year. I mean, all those guys graduated. We weren't as strong. I think we were like 20 something in the region that year. I mean, big dip. And then we sort of rallied a bit after that with the big class and stuff. Tell me a little bit about those last couple of years of your career.
Yeah. So when you came in, it was my junior year, and I had gone through some health issues, like really end of my sophomore year, and then most of junior year, and I was kind of battling with. And then, once I overcame them and we went into that senior year, which for me was 06, 07, we kind of had that wave of freshmen come through that year. And we already had Frank Eanes on the team. I think he came in maybe my junior year, which would have been the first year you were there. So he went – did he go to nationals his freshman year?
No. Nope.
Okay. But I think he went the other 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that year, 06 for cross country, kind of at that conference meet, we were like – we thought maybe we could beat Elizabethtown. We ended up being second. But that was a great race. And then we went out to Waynesburg and ran like a really sloppy, course out there. Pretty equivalent to Club XC Nationals this year, I would say.
Yeah, probably.
Just a slop fest. So I think it's really important. You could be on a team where maybe you're like, how are we ever going to accomplish anything? And then you get a wave of really fast guys in that really want to do something and work together. And then, sooner or later, like, you're going to really accomplish your goals. So I think it's key, especially I think because we already had the culture there that we had started. And when those guys had joined it, they kind of, they believed in the culture, and they kind of believed in the plan and the things that we're trying to accomplish. And those classes went on, and I think that's really was the start of like where you see some of the better Messiah College teams coming out, especially in track and field, like a lot of national qualifying individuals coming through there. So it was pretty special being a part of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, Eric and I mean, we were like solid runners, for the conference. I mean, maybe some first team all conference, second team all conference type of finishes, some top 2 or 3 individual conference finishes and individual events. But we competed with some pretty amazing athletes. You talk about Brandon Newbold, but also just guys like Pat Roach and Nick Kipe and Mike Dell. And I mean, guys like at nationals getting All-American and on the verge of national championships and stuff. But we were right with them. And I feel like in some senses, some of the guys that talk about say that you kind of were the start of like just the leadership and sort of just that like rah, like get everyone hyped up about running in the team.
Yeah.
That sort of transition to that. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, that's sort of a weird question, I guess, but just like, where did that come from for you at that time?
It's kind of interesting because, for me, I went to a pretty big high school, in Pennsylvania. I went to William Tennant High School. And so we were pretty decent. We had a lot of really talented people. Some guys from track went on, to D1 schools and ran. So like for me, going from like a strong high school program that was like a AAA school in Pennsylvania to like a D3, like, kind of like a mid-range D3 school, I would say, it was almost maybe like a little bit of a step down as far as, the people that I was competing against. And so when I got to Messiah, I was like, kind of my depth on my high school team, I was back a little bit more. And then when I went to Messiah, coming in my first year, it's like, oh, dude, you're the top 800 guy. I was like, this is pretty cool. So I think right off the bat, almost assumed a little bit of a leadership role because we had a pretty nice, solid pack of 800 runners that year. And that year, really, I think the first point I realized it was freshman year indoor track. I was in I guess you would call it the B heat or the slow heat at indoor conferences. And I actually ended up placing 6th from the slow heat. And I just remember getting on like the podium with like all those guys, like Sean Mulcahy from like Elizabethtown College, Craig Wetzel, like, I don't know if UWAT was up there, like a bunch of guys were just on the podium and like, kind of like embracing me as like the freshman, like Donovan was up there. Yeah, so a lot of E-Town guys, but then, I went with that confidence into the outdoor season and started to run some really nice times. I broke 2 flat for the first time outdoors that year. And then I went on and I was 4th in the conference at the outdoor championship, which was actually 1 place behind UWAT, who's I guess the top D3 athlete of all time. At that championship, the senior year, he won the the 15, no, the steeplechase, the 5 and the 10 at nationals.
Yeah.
But he occasionally would drop down and run an 800 here and there. But so I think I used like that experience and like maybe some of the success I had that year and kind of helping out some of the other guys like Eric Blosser and Chris Arnold was on that team and Andrew C. Miller and some of those young guys. Not all of them stuck it out, but we kind of used that pack that we had. And then when some other guys joined, especially when Roach came in there, who was more of a sprinter, but he started kind of delving into running the 800. I think he's the one that mainly said that I was kind of like a building block for that program.
Yeah, I think Eddie's talked about it.
Yeah, Eddie Palmer.
I just think like there are a few years there where we had some really good leadership in general, just from like captains and just people taking grips on the team and setting accountability. We all love Fogue. He wasn't the guy who was going to sort of scream in your face and tell you needed to do something. And so that odd times started with you. So. Well, cool. Good to hear a little bit about your college experience. So then after that, I remember you ran for Velocity after college, where you were working, and then we started Swift after I graduated, and have really been going strong in Swift then for the last 12 years or so. And so we've got a lot of races, just you and I, but also just in general as a group. Do you have any particular experiences being a part of Swift or just that group in general that stick out?
Yeah, I think for us, like the main bulk was maybe like 2008 through like 2013, like those 5 years, we did a ton of races, like all those races in Philly, and then kind of hitting up the marathon circuit a little bit, Club XC Nationals, and I guess maybe the capstone of that was Boston in 2013, where we had like everybody was training hard, your brother, Smiles, we had an awesome group. Yeah, JD and all those guys. And, we took all our families up there and we went and, I think, did everybody PR? Like, I don't know. We had a lot of PRs.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
And so just kind of being around everybody. And I think the key for people that, some of your seniors now that are graduating in the spring is just, I think it's more fun when you keep training hard and, you can continue to PR or, kind of just be in the thick of things with the race. I think it loses a little bit of its value if you're not putting, full effort into it. And I think it's cool, graduating because, a lot of us before graduating, like 5K, 8K. That was kind of like our max distance that we've ever raced. And it's really cool to jump up to that next level. Like, especially for me, I was an 800 guy. You know, that was my main event. And like kind of dipping in and running some of those longer distances and having a good amount of success, you know, in those distances. I think it was pretty cool for me. And, you know, having that accountability, the text threads, you know, like you said before, the Google Docs, like all that stuff. It was really awesome.
Yeah, we kind of like went from, I mean, the funny thing is, as much as we were all in it together, we never really had one primary way to log and be in a group together.
Right.
We used different
Strava.
things. And so, yeah, we're like Strava now. And so before we would have a Google Doc and it would just be like a fall training cycle. And we would just like type out the weeks, have names, and people would just log in their weekly mileage into a column. And it was kind of neat to see that. But yeah, one of my favorite experiences with you is, you know, Boston was great. And that was more or less just the race because we kind of got up there with their families and we sort of did different things. We saw each other on the line and we saw Newbold running around there randomly while we were warming up, remember? But Rehoboth Beach Marathon was one of my best experiences with you. I mean, you did beat me that day. But overall, just because that's where we vacationed, that's where I got married. Like it was just
that was a crazy race.
Crazy race. I mean, the race was awesome. It was a small group. Bofinger and I were leading after maybe about 10K, maybe 12. I mean, there was a group there, and then we sort of broke off after hitting 6 flats on the trail. And then I actually we went through Cape Pendleton Park, just beautiful. And then I actually broke away around mile 1920 from Bofinger. And I thought, I won't say I had it in a bag. But I felt pretty good. And then around 22, 23, going back into that trail, all of a sudden I hear you coming up. And he passed me, and I was hurting pretty good. And then I do remember your wife was on a bike, and you sent her back to make sure I was okay. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, like Eric wants to know if you're all right. I'm like, yeah, fine. I'm struggling here. But the funny thing is it even gets thick after that. So then we make a turn for the last probably 800 meters, and all of a sudden I see Eric right there, and like I was
hurting bad.
And his hamstring sort of like went, and I mean, you ended up pulling it out, but like ended up being a lot closer probably than we had thought at that point. So
the marathon, like for anyone who hasn't run it before, it's a crazy race. So I've done 9. How many have you done, Pat?
I think 6.
Okay. Yeah, and like no matter like you run them, you know, whatever, if you've run 10 or you've run 100 or you've run 1, like they're all different. You know, each one has like a different experience as far as, you know, you felt great throughout the whole thing, or, you know, you hit the wall. Like, for example, when we ran Philly in 2008, I felt awesome. Like that was probably my best one as far as how I felt.
How you felt.
But I think like looking back on it in retrospect, I think I felt so good because I think I was probably ready to run faster at that one. So I ran like a 2:45, and then my next one was actually 3 years later, Rehoboth, when we ran 2:36.
Gotcha.
So it's just a crazy thing to think about. You know, how much time we were able to take off, and you know, but obviously we put the training in for it. I think really for me, once I started running more miles, you know, kind of that 2011, 2012, 2013, like really started to bumping it up from, because I think before that, like I had just passed maybe 2,000 miles a year. And then those years I started putting in, you know, 3,000 plus. And that's really when I started to see my times drop and I felt a lot faster.
Yeah, that's true. Also after that race, I think that race just, it was awesome. Like there was a tent afterwards that we had the meal and then the awards. And then like, I think we all went out to dinner at night somewhere in town, that night. It was just a cool experience. So we've done a lot of things like that. As well as you said, sort of those local, get your rear in gear 5Ks where
they were
awesome. Up to sort of take 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean? Like
gift
you're
cards.
gonna win those cash prizes, go out to Sabrina's afterwards in the city, and like just fun days together. So Swift's been great, and like I said, Eric's still going strong with his running, which is awesome. He was planning to run Boston this year, and it was postponed to September. So we'll you know, have to see how that goes. You know, just a training cycle. But Last question I have really is,
Yeah.
so Eric also coached at, is Philadelphia Biblical University, and then turned to Cairn University, and he was there
Right.
for, was it 9 years, 7, 8 years?
Yeah, it was 9 years. Yeah.
9 years. And they only had cross country and no track. And actually, funny, my first coaching job was at Rosemont. We were in the same conference for a couple of years while I was there, and that was just sort of fun to coach against each other.
Yeah.
Rosemont also had no track, and so, but you know, you were a D3 guy. You sort of took that program to its first conference title in the school's history, and so, you and I had a lot of good conversations about coaching and stuff. We have some different training philosophies, but do you have any sort of key philosophies that you remember that stuck out? Workouts, just theories, mileage that you did with your team?
Yeah. I think in the beginning versus like towards the end, my theory definitely changed once the teams, got a little bit better. We had some standout individuals. Ellen Squire, she was like a top conference runner, towards the beginning and middle. But I think towards the end, when I was coaching there, the men's team specifically really started to get, pretty good. And it's kind of weird. Like, this coming from a school that doesn't have track, it's very hard to recruit. And especially, like, moreover for like Cairn and PBU, we barely had any majors either. So it's like, these people are going to study Bible, like education, music, like that's pretty much it. Like, we didn't have any science. So in trying to recruit, it's like, who's even going to want to come here? So, I tried my best with recruiting, and then we did a lot like in-house recruiting and like kind of recruiting people that were already on campus. Because if you think about a lot of these people, or students that were at the school were either homeschooled, and we had a lot of missionary kids that were at our school. And so these are types of students that maybe never had the opportunity to run before, and, run like in an organized team. And so, I got a couple of these guys together, and, they kind of all bought in and, really started running some pretty solid miles. And, all of a sudden we got good. We kind of had the key pieces in place. But as far as like training philosophy specifically, the summers, we really didn't do too many workouts. It was all more just like mileage, like a mileage build up. And, towards probably the last 3 years, I would say I had like a Google Doc going, kind of each week, they were given a plan in the beginning of the summer with like a mileage progression. And then, at the end of each week, they had to post their mileage. So that kept like accountability. And we even broke it up into like, kind of like co-captains would take maybe 3-4 guys on the team, and they would kind of like call them each week and see how they're doing. And then I would call the co-captains and kind of get some feedback on like what's going on, like how can we, you're not running your miles. Like, what can we do to get you to run your miles? And then we also I had this workout that was kind of like a testing workout. Maybe we did it in the beginning, middle, and like towards the end, or maybe it was like camp week. We did this workout. It was like a mile all out, and then 2 800s, and then 4 400s. And the recovery was half the distance in between. And I always thought that like that was a good, just kind of see where you're at workout, because it was a good test of both speed and like endurance. And so we used that workout, throughout the course of the summer and throughout the course of the season to kind of see where we were, from like a speed perspective. So, I mean, that's it in general. And then, when we went into the season, I usually like to use like the term specificity as like a, coaching principle. I would think about what race we wanted to peak for, and then, kind of think about the course and, where that fell in the season. And typically for us, it was we kind of peaked. We wanted to run well at the Paul Short Invitational, which was the beginning of October, because that was a chance always for the kids to get a fast time. And this from coaching, like that's what the kids want to do. They want to get a fast time. Yeah. And you don't really know how many opportunities you're going to have for that in a year. So we always try to kind of do a mini peak for that and run fast at Paul Short. and then also for our conference championship, because for us, we were never really competitive on the regional level. So we kind of just maybe rode the taper out a little bit for that.
Right, in PT conference,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, but typical training cycles, we do some hills and some tempos and some fartleks and all that type of stuff thrown in there throughout the week.
My team is convinced that fartlek has no purpose, and it's like, I think it's just because it's not on the track, it's not as structured. They're like, I'm like, you can still work really hard in a fartlek, like it's all relevant. But yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and I think a couple fun facts here before we finish is Eric brought his team up to NCCAA cross country championships. My first year at Houghton in 2014, and they competed up here. We were in different classes, so we weren't like against each other per se. But and then again, when he was a volunteer assistant at Rowan, when we hosted the Atlantic Regional Championships up here, he was up here as well for a meet. So it's kind of funny how this all sort of came back all these years later. But yeah, we could probably keep this tape rolling for a while. Really good just to hear from you, and just for anybody who's listening, give them a perspective on your running experience. So so thanks for coming on, and we'll I'm just gonna pretty much hit record. We can stay on for a few minutes though.
Okay.
Just